Welcome, everyone, to the Scaling Smart podcast, where we bring together industry leaders, entrepreneurs, and innovators to discuss key insight strategies and their experiences that have driven success both for themselves and their customers. I'm Billy Mitchell, your host, and today I'm excited to introduce a special guest, Eric Baum, CEO of Bluleadz, which is a HubSpot Elite Partner agency specializing in inbound marketing, sales enablement, customer success strategies that all help businesses grow through their full buyer journey. It's a mouthful, but I got through it. Eric, thanks so much for joining. How are you today?
Man, I'm doing incredible as always. Thanks for having me, Billy. Appreciate it, buddy.
Yeah, likewise. It's going to be a good conversation. I enjoyed our pre-podcast recording conversation, so I know that we're going to have some good stuff going on here. Hey, just a reminder to you as well as our audience. We break this podcast up into three primary sections. We're looking forward to getting to know you, your organization, kind of how you got to where you're at. We want to talk about the industry as a whole, as well as your ideal client. And then the meat and potatoes, what the audience really is here to see and hear, which is how are you growing? What's your keys to success for scale? Also, what have you done that didn't work, and how can we learn from you? So, with that, I would love to get going and jump into the first question, which is an easy one. If you don't mind, give us the 90-second elevator pitch of Bluleadz. What do you guys do?
Yeah, sure. So we're a HubSpot onboarding and implementation agency. So we help companies get on the HubSpot platform, which is a CRM, and we make sure that we get it set up so they can leverage it to create profitability, create efficiency inside their organization, and actually leverage it to get our ROI from it. So we're primarily project based these days, which we'll probably talk about a little bit later. We're counterintuitive to your natural marketing agency, which is retainer based, which we used to be, and that's how we started. Um, but we work with customers anywhere from $5 million in revenue all the way up to $5 billion in revenue. We've kind of moved along, going up market with HubSpot as they've grown over the last 18 years. We've grown alongside of them.
That's awesome. And yeah, it's funny is HubSpot is an incredible tool. Obviously, you've got a couple of the large, CRM competitors, Salesforce being one of them. HubSpot is a great tool. We recommend HubSpot anytime we can. Uh, we manage paid advertising, so the leads we generate, it's incredibly important that they're being tracked, right? That the sales teams are following the process appropriately because it plays such an important role into being able to recognize revenue and the source of revenue, as well as just what worked, what didn't work within that sales cycle. And I'm sure you've come across this. It's wild. Some of our biggest customers, hundreds of millions of dollars, and they don't have a CRM. And
Yeah.
it's just like, how in the world are you guys surviving? And it's just
Yeah,
an
they're
Excel
operating
sheet.
out of spreadsheets, man. It's
Yeah.
insane.
It's wild. It's wild. Well, that's great overview of your organization. Let's rewind a little bit. Let's go a little personal. Tell us about you. How did you get to this point where you started this company? What's your journey?
Yeah, so that's a long conversation. So I've owned six different businesses in the last 30 years.
Wow.
Starting off with a sewer contracting business in the mid 90s, straight out of school that I knew nothing about, and just kind of jumped in with a couple other buddies and grew to 25 team members over 5 states. Fast forward to owning a bar in Richmond, Virginia, in the late 90s, and then starting manufacturing company in 2001. I owned two plumbing companies along the way, and that's ultimately that's what ended up landing me as a accidental agency owner in 2010. So it's been a long journey, and I have learned an awful lot along the way, and I've done, or I should say, made a ton of mistakes as well.
Yeah, I can imagine. That's incredible. I own a couple businesses myself. Some done really well, and some haven't. So I'm sure you've learned quite a few lessons along the way. Um, how did you get then into the CRM world and get introduced to HubSpot? What's kind of the genesis there?
Yeah, so at the time I owned two Mr. Rooter plumbing franchises in Tampa and Orlando, and I was spending about $25,000 a month in each market. This is 2008, 2009, right? In the yellow pages. And because that's what we used to do back then. And so I was like, this is insane. My job It took $365 to make the phone ring, which is a lead for us back then. My job average was $212. So you do the math. I was losing money hand over fist. So I was like, there's got to be a better way. So I hired a programmer internally. He built me a website. He started doing pay-per-click advertising. And within 6 months, I was out of the yellow pages completely, spending about $10,000 a month in PPC in each market. My cost per call went from $365 down to $45. So, and my job average grew because I started figuring things out. So I started making a ton of money. Fast forward like 6 months of doing that, all of the other Mr. Rooter franchises across the country said, how did you get out of the yellow pages? How did you do this? So I immediately took that first employee, moved them over to a new company, and had like 50 customers all at once. And then I ran into a bottleneck of like, hey, this is back before content management systems were a big thing. So we were creating everything on HTML websites. And I was like, I've got to pay a developer to make any tiny little change. And so I was like, I got to find a CMS that a dummy like myself can actually update. And that led me to finding HubSpot. They were one of the only CMSs out there alongside of Joomla and Drupal. And I kind of bought into HubSpot back in 2009, and then rebranded to Bluleadz 2010, became one of their very first like top 10, it was first 10 partners for them. And man, the rest is history. Like I bought into the inbound marketing and just kind of rode that wave along for the last 15 years now. It's been fantastic.
That's awesome. And yeah, I we're about 15 years old, also 14. And back in the day, 2008, man, you throw up a couple ads on Google, you got a good sales process, you're going to crush it. You're
Yeah,
absolutely
it
just going
was
to take over the market.
crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's fun. Well, all right, so let's talk about your ideal client then. You mentioned a little bit, 5 million to into the billions. But if I were to bring you a customer today, what do they look like?
Yeah, so it's primarily somebody that's moving onto the HubSpot platform, so recently signed up to get on the HubSpot platform, or a company that's been on the HubSpot platform for a number of years that they may have lost the team members that were managing HubSpot, or they don't know how to use it anymore, or they're not leveraging it to get an ROI. So in both of those instances, new HubSpot customers we onboard, we train their team, we get the platform set up so they can leverage it. We train their marketing team, we train their sales team, their customer service team on how to use the platform. And an existing HubSpot customer, it's the same thing. Most of the time, it's like, hey, the CMO left, and now the marketing director really doesn't understand how to use the platform. The sales team really never adopted it, so we'll go in, do workshops, do trainings, reconfigure it for them so they can actually use it efficiently and be more profitable with their company.
That's awesome. So from the competition side, just because I'm in the industry, I know that there is certainly a degree of competition. Talk to us a little bit about how you stand out. What is some of the unique characteristics you bring to the table? You mentioned your project base, right? So most of the people I've interacted with, they're looking for some level of retainer. So you got to eat what you kill, I guess, huh?
Yeah, so this is counterintuitive to most agencies, and we don't get me wrong. Like we operated under the retainer methodology or framework for up until about 5 years ago, and then post COVID, like once COVID hit, we started a quick change in the marketplace. The way people were buying, they were less inclined to sign up for a long-term retainer, and they were more inclined to do project work. And at that point, we had made a name for ourselves in the HubSpot ecosystem. And I was like, we're just going to start doing projects. And we're going to switch from marketing, an inbound marketing agency to an onboarding and implementation agency. We're no longer going to create, strategy for driving lead gen for customers. We're going to focus on just the technical aspect of things. And lucky for me, I was ahead of the curve there. We made that pivot, and we had 85% of our revenue was recurring retainer revenue up at that point, and then we moved to 80% of our revenue now as project work. And it really we made that change at the right time because we kind of like on the seesaw as the market started changing their buying patterns, we kind of like pivoted with them. And so that just they just ate that up. They're like, hey, we're going to do a project with you. We don't want to actually commit to a retainer. So that worked out really, really well for us. And you know, it's the same thing today. Now, I will say we do still have like a retainer piece where it's like managed services. We support HubSpot for our customers, and we've gotten really good at second, third, fourth, fifth sale off of that initial project, and that carries the revenue, increases your lifetime value, and helps to make up, or I should say, create a more certain revenue stream that retainer work typically does for you. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And yeah, the you service a customer with such a degree of expertise, professionalism, care that they're going to want to come back to you. So you're, in essence, you're making an ongoing, reoccurring model. It's just on an as needed basis. And I think there's a lot of value to that.
Yeah. The other thing that kind of differentiates us from some of the other HubSpot partner agencies, and keep in mind, like, you know, just from an agency perspective, there's 7,000 HubSpot partners, and we're top five globally. So like we've kind of really differentiated ourselves in the marketplace and grown alongside of HubSpot. But one of the major things is we operate like a SaaS company. So HubSpot's a SaaS company. We aligned with them. We co-sell with them. Our sales team sells like a SaaS company. We have a customer success management team in place above and beyond the people in client services that are actually delivering work that operates as a SaaS company. So we've kind of like aligned ourselves with our strategic partner in such a way that many times the customer doesn't even know that we don't work for HubSpot. They like contract us, like the person signing the contract might be the CMO or the CFO or the CEO, and the actually marketing team and sales team, they're like, oh, you guys don't work for HubSpot? We're like, no, we're like a separate agency, right? So, and that's it's a testament to what I was trying to accomplish and blur the lines between the two.
That's very cool. I like that a lot. Um, and clearly, your service delivery has got to be good enough that you're in the top five globally, and customers clearly are loving working with you. So let's talk about the industry and where you're at. I think I know the answer to this, but let's look at the next 3 to 5 years. Where's the industry going? How are we changing?
Man, I can't even say what it's going to be like in 5 years. I can predict the
Sure.
next 3 years, and what we've seen just in the last 6 months, right? So obviously AI is the talk of the town for the last couple of years. For the first year when ChatGPT came out, people are like, "Oh, this is kind of cool." But in the last year and a half, people are like, "Oh my gosh, I like how is this going to affect everything?" For us, we've really leveraged AI. So we kind of like, so in answer to your question, I think 3 years from now, all companies are going to be embracing AI in one form or another. If they don't, then they're going to be left behind to their competition. So in my industry, in our industry, it's going to make a major shift in the way we operate. And so what we've done in the last, just in the last 6 months, is we've kind of looked at things from a four-tier approach or strategy. So the first tier for us in adopting AI is like, hey, what's native in HubSpot? Because that's where we primarily play, right? The HubSpot AI features, Breeze, Copilot, the agents. Like, let's train our customers on how to leverage that. Let's create service offerings around that to support our customers. And then the next level for us is like level two, where, hey, there's all these other integrations that we integrate with HubSpot, like the quota paths and the QuickBooks and the, air calls and all the other ones that extend the functionality of the CRM platform. And so they've got native AI functionality too. So let's train our customers on how to leverage that. So they're getting a better ROI. So they're more efficient in their business. They can have less headcount. It's not about reducing headcount in a company. It's about 10xing your revenue with the same amount of headcount by utilizing AI. And then level three is like your custom GPTs that are really like use case specific, building those out, deploying those through an organization. And then finally, which we've just started doing in the last couple months, is building out really comprehensive custom agents to do specific things like customer service agent, prospecting agent, quote building agent, all of which is like far beyond what native AI applications inside HubSpot or another platform can do, because they've got to be more like dummy proof for the masses, right? But we can create really custom solutions with minimal upkeep that just hammer home stuff like prospecting and quote building to enable the sales teams at companies to really like just click a couple buttons and it builds out your entire proposal. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, I love how you broke that down into four categories. One of I use it kind of as a thought experiment, if you will. I like to think about a business, just any old business, and what if that business was entirely ran by AI, right? What would that look like? You know, you go into a new neighborhood and you've got the model home. Inevitably, the model home has the nicest of everything, right? It's got the most upgrades you could have. It's got the nicest yard, the biggest pool. It's glamorous, right? Then you end up buying and building something it's nice, you know, it's got a few here and there, but you know, what would that business look like if it was entirely AI driven, up to the account management, to the delivery, to the sales, to the communications, to the finances, like literally every piece of it. And yeah, maybe we don't ever get there. That would be weird to interact solely with a an AI driven business in that manner. But the way you broke that down, every single level has a touch point that AI can enhance, create more efficiencies. A really good buddy of mine, he likes to talk about AI and chat, you know, condensing workflows, right? Something that took 2 hours previous is now 5 minutes. And definitely, um, all the various pieces, you know, that it can touch is going to be, I mean, even to some degree, we don't even know, right?
Yeah, it creates efficiencies. You know, it shortens the time for from learning something to deployment, right? And you know, we were talking previous to the podcast about leadership training and that environment, and we were talking about, hey, we built a custom GPT to train our leadership team based on the leadership principles and methodologies that we've subscribed to in a different platform, right? And it allows our team members, our new leaders, to gain access instantaneously to how we've handled situations in the past, best practices, and our SOPs. And so they just ask the question, they've got a it spits out, here's how you handle this specific situation with an employee and how you deal with it. And it's just amazing. Otherwise, you'd have to like go find the person that's had that situation before, talk to that person, filter that person's own issues, right? You got to put it through the filter of like their perspective, and try to come up with a solution. And now it's all done in with a click of a button, man. It's unbelievable.
It's impressive. I love that. All right, let's talk about growing the company. And obviously, you've been doing this for a while, so you've clearly seen things that have worked and not worked. But as of today, how are you getting new customers? And what are some of those tactics that have worked, are working, and some that clearly didn't work?
Yeah, so you know, when we first started, it was inbound marketing. That was like the newfangled thing. And PPC paid media has always been a constant throughout this entire journey. So we've leveraged paid media along the way. Currently, though, we made a shift from inbound marketing about 3 years ago and really went all in on channel partners. Meaning, you know, today's hot button is like ecosystem led growth, right? But it really is just channel partners. Like we're a channel partner with HubSpot. We have strategic partners, channel partners with other softwares that integrate with HubSpot. So we've built that ecosystem that just drives inbound leads to us, or inbound SQL. So we co-sell along with these other software companies, primarily with HubSpot, of course, and that drives the majority of our business. Because I mean, think about it. When we were doing inbound marketing, we were getting 300,000 plus visitors to our website every month, 2 to 3,000 new leads every single month. We'd nurture them through the inbound marketing process, turn them over SQLs to our sales team. That dried up about 9 months ago to a year, right? Google made all these changes and really cut down traffic to everybody. And so we are ahead of the curve in that we didn't rely on that anymore. And so now I think one of the biggest opportunities for companies to grow is to look backwards into their existing and past customer base and say, how do I sell back into those customers? If you think about, we're just a small company, 45 people, 46 people, and we've been around for a while. We've got 3,000, 4,000 customers that we've worked with over that time frame. And we currently only work with 150 to 200 customers at a time. There's 3,500 customers that we go back and sell back into because we may have worked with somebody 10 years ago and our services are completely different now than they were. We can provide value to that company. And there's companies out there that have hundreds of thousands of customers. Just by tapping back into that customer base, they can drive revenue 2, 3 times, right?
Yeah, that was a big focus for us this year as well. In a similar way, was hey, we've got this bulk of revenue, recurring revenue for us. It's recurring, and it's doing really well. It's consistent, and it's just level, right? How can we provide value and increase that revenue without having to go get new revenue, right? And so it's three forms of revenue: new revenue, retained revenue, and grown revenue, right? And it was a really fun, and still is, exercise, because I think in addition to what you're talking about, you're forced to evaluate what you did do, what you are doing, and what more could you do, right? Being able to say, this has been working, what else can we do, is a really critical component to growth and innovation. And even as simple as, hey, our customers need HubSpot or a CRM, and HubSpot happens to be a good one. Let's build that partnership. Let's bring, Eric and his team to the table, right? And be able to provide value, which from that perspective also supports the work we do, right? Because the better that their CRM is, or the better that it's structured and utilized, the better and more powerful our paid media management's going to be.
Yeah, of course. I think that the other thing that companies can leverage now is going back to the AI component. So it used to be, especially in the agency world or a service-based business, you got 50 employees, you're $10 million, let's call it, in revenue, and your revenue growth is a function of the number of team members that you have, right? Because of the workload. Now it's a different ball game. You can have 50 employees and do 25 million or 75 million, right? Because if you leverage AI and the efficiencies and the automation involved, the sky's the limit. And the profit, the gross margins on the is like way higher. So I'm really excited about it, at least in my space, like leveraging that for growth. In fact, we've got a what we call the $1 million to $25 million scaling blueprint, right? It's like this is our game plan on how we're going to grow, leveraging technology, AI, from all the way from a million, which we did that many years ago, to the $25 million mark, and then for us, we're trying to get to 100 million. So like, how do you do that? And so if anybody out there wants that, I'm happy to send it your way. Just DM me on Instagram or on LinkedIn at like Eric Baum BZ. Happy to share that with everybody because in our world it's like you can be my direct competitor, but you're never really competing with me. You're always doing something a little bit different, right? So always
Yep.
happy to share.
Yeah, and I think in our industry, it's big enough for everybody to, have some food. So I love that. And partnerships, I'm glad to hear you bring up partnerships. And obviously, yours are a little bit different than, or the way, let me rephrase that. The way you were describing it, channel partners, is a little bit different than kind of how we approach it, which is just straight referral partnerships, right? And being able to build that ecosystem. And I love that. I think that's an incredible way to grow organizations. And I'm curious your input, your insight. What makes a successful partnership? When you're thinking about the channel partner or a referral partner, what is key for you guys?
Yeah, so two different animals, right? So it depends if you're just referring business over to somebody, it needs to be a complementary service or product of what you offer. If it's a strategic partnership, like in the case of a software company and an agency like us, right? We're wrapping services around that partner. Now, the logistics of it and what makes it successful, because you could have great intentions, you could be servicing their customers great, but if you don't have brand awareness or a tactical way to create opportunities, then you're just SOL, right? So for us, we use a platform called Crossbeam. And that's just another software. And what it does is it allows us, all of our customers, leads, prospects, to be shared with our strategic partnerships without them having access to our database. And we can pick and choose what information we share with them, but it's like an overlay, and they do the same thing with us. So imagine if like all of your customers and all of their customers, or all your customers and all their opportunities, you're able to see all of those. And I'm like, hey, we've got a customer that's in your sales pipeline right now. We've worked with them for 5 years now. You should talk to such and such there. Let me make an intro or put a good word, or let's all hop on a call and I'll provide value for you. So you're selling with them, for them, they're doing the same thing for you. And that creates that flywheel of you're just like generating revenue at a pace that's unprecedented in the past, right? Because it used to just be like call up a sales rep, hey, do you got any leads that I can work with? No, absolutely not. Like now it's all transparent and it's all driven. You can drive that by AI as well. It's fantastic.
And that's called Crossbeam.
Crossbeam is the platform. Yeah, it's a methodology like ecosystem led growth. It's just a different way of saying channel sales, right?
Okay.
Um, but it's very, very effective.
Very cool. I love that. Well, this has been good. We've got one more question, and we're going to jump into the lightning round. It's fun. Just a couple questions. You're going to say the first thing that comes to your mind. There's no trick questions, but go a little bit personal on our way out here. Would love to learn a little bit more about the biggest challenge you faced in your career and how it's changed or shaped you, as well as maybe how you do business today.
Yeah, so that's a tough one. So the biggest challenge I had was breaking up and things imploding with a business partner that I own three companies with. Um, and it was a very terrible situation, but I learned one of the biggest things out of that that has set me on a path to success. The short version is I had a manufacturing company with a partner that I was a minority partner owner in that business. We had been negotiating with a VC company for the past year to buy us out. He was the CEO, I was the COO, and in the last week, when they were ready to sign the deal and close with us, behind the CEO, my partner's back, they came to me and said, hey, we want you to be the CEO when we take over. And because, and my ego got the best of me, I'm like, yeah, absolutely. I should be the CEO. I know how to run this company. And boy, that was the biggest mistake of my career because I also owned two other companies with him 50-50. He found out and my world came to an end. This was at the end of 2006. And so I was like, okay, no problem. Like, I mean, it was, I had a country club house. I had a new baby that was 6 months old, married, two brand new, luxury SUVs, like making good money. And all of that came to an immediate halt and went into litigation with my partner. And it was a disaster. And at the time, I blamed my partner. At the time, I said, oh, he's just crazy. He's off his rocker. Like he's just a wild card. That's why they want me to run the company when they take over. And I made all these excuses, and it took me a few years to come to the realization that you know what, it was all my fault. It was my ego for creating that situation, and really had nothing to do with him at all. And that pivot, it took a few more years until I really crystallize what that's called, and it's called extreme ownership, right? We talked a little bit about this, Jocko Willick, Echelon Front. I didn't have a name for it at the time. I just knew it was my fault. And when I went back and kind of, in retrospect, figured all that out, I'm like, man, how could I be so stupid? Fast forward, we train our entire team on extreme ownership and how to remove your ego from the situation so that nobody in my world is ever put in that situation ever again. It was the hardest time of my life. I mean, it was terrible.
I think you've done a good job an incredible job even at turning that hard lesson into something that's provides some serious value for you and your team. And I think that's the key. That's why when we fail, our goal is to fail forward, right? Not
Yeah.
fail backwards.
Yeah, well, I will tell you, I think the biggest success indicator for an entrepreneur is like persistence. Right after that happened, for it was like right before Christmas, a few months before Christmas, my wife, so I'm originally from Philadelphia, my wife got me this huge poster with Rocky, the like symbol of Rocky on the stairs of the museum, and it's like said something like "never give up," or it's like he was a one in a million shot, right? But it was representative of, hey, I don't quit. Like I just get up and every day is a brand new day and I'm like, I'll get through it. I'll figure a way out. And if you're an entrepreneur or a business owner, you have to think that way, right? Because
Yep,
if you don't, you're dead, period.
absolutely. I couldn't have said it better myself, and I think that's a great way to end that section. And I genuinely appreciate your wisdom, your insights, your thoughts. This has been very good. I know our audience is going to get some good value out of it as well. So with that, let's jump into the lightning round. I'm going to ask you a couple questions. First thing comes to your mind. Don't think too hard on it. They're pretty easy. But you ready to go?
Yeah,
Alrighty. Coffee or tea?
coffee.
Same here. What's one tool or system you rely on to keep your organization running smoothly?
Apple reminders.
Yeah, yeah, same. All right. Favorite book, podcast, or resource that's influenced you?
Buy back your time. Dan Martell.
Good one. It's a very good one. All right. What's one bucket list item you've already checked off?
Helicopter over an active volcano while it was erupting
I don't feel like very many people can say that.
in
That's
Iceland.
incredible.
Yeah, it was incredible.
Wow. That's awesome. All right. What's one goal you're still working on?
100 million in revenue.
Love it. Finally, Eric, if our listeners want to connect with you, what's the best way to get in touch?
LinkedIn, Instagram, both Eric, EricBaumBZ. Just DM me on either one.
Wonderful. Well, this has been great. I appreciate your time. And for everybody else, that's a wrap of this episode of Scaling Smart. I'm your host, Billy Mitchell, and I want to thank you for tuning in to Scaling Smart Podcast, where we have conversations with real people who have real stories who have learned how to scale smart.